Welcome back to Yin and Young, the podcast. This is episode 69. It has been a long time coming. Our last episode was about like married life. I had just gotten married like through paperwork here in Japan. But yeah, I then I had a wedding recently that Dan attended. So for the purpose of this podcast, for our listeners, we have two people named Daniel for this podcast right now. So it's gonna be so I'm gonna call Yin, the other half of Yin and Young, the podcast. I'll call Mr. Yin, I'll call him Dan. And then for our guest today, we have Daniel Tong. Yay.
Yay!
Hello.
He
Yay.
so that voice you just heard who said yay is Daniel Tong. He will be referring to him as Daniel. Yeah, Daniel or also Daniel the editor. Before we get into that, as I was saying, so Dan, he attended a wedding I held recently in Japan. And so been busy, which is why the podcast has been delayed. But excuses aside, I want to welcome our guest, Daniel Tong. He is an editor based in California, USA, and Daniel and I go way back. We actually attended the same high school in
We
the
sure
Bay Area,
did.
San Francisco Bay Area, and where our hometown is Milpitas. So and so it was always interesting to like come back to Milpitas, and once in a while I'll run into Daniel through like some events. Like the most recent one was our 20-year high school graduation reunion, our high school reunion.
Damn.
Damn, yeah. So I missed it. So what happened was like for the 10th year anniversary, like I was in the Bay Area, but I missed it because like all my friends, they're like, I don't go. It's not a big deal. But I really regretted like not going to, it's kind of, why not? It's a 10th year. So, but I missed it. So I was like, you know what? If possible, I'm gonna make it a point to go to the 20th year anniversary. And I did. But it was even more inconvenient because I was living in Japan at the time. I'm still living in Japan. And I was just like, hey, I have time off, might as well. And also it's a good time to see family as well. It's always, a good time to see family. So I went back and I ran into Daniel and I was like, whoa. And sure
Woo.
enough, within like it was like maybe 6+ year gap since I last saw him or whatever. And he's still working in film. The last couple of times I spoke with him, he was working. He is editor in the film industry, and I was like, "Oh, that's great," And because I'm, Dan knows I'm also in. Both of you know that I did a short film. And I've also been working in film as well before, and it's always good to see people who are still sticking in the industry because it's not easy. Income's not steady. Jobs are not that steady. And to pursue the creative arts is it's to pursue any industry, particularly I think the artistic industry, the film industry, and stay with it. I think is commendable. So without further ado, I want to welcome Daniel Tong. Hello, how are you doing?
Hello. Thank you for the intro. Yeah, it's been a while, but I'm honored to be here. I've listened to your guys' podcast before, so
Oh,
I think in the past. So when you reached out and asked, hey, do you want to be in the podcast? It was an honor, man. I'm really happy
Oh, wow.
you reached out. So and it's a great time to catch up as well. I always enjoy these moments to just like, hey, what you been up to and all that. So and good meeting Dan as well.
yes.
So
Nice meeting you.
yeah, I can put a face to the voice now. So
Yes.
yes.
So yes, awesome. You're one of our listeners. Wow, that's always good to hear. It's always because we feel like we're speaking in like a vacuum or like in a bubble, but once in a while someone will say, "Hey, I really like that one episode." I'm like, "What? People actually listen to this?" So
You put it out there, people will listen. No, someone will listen.
awesome.
So yeah.
Yeah. Just briefly from Daniel's website, his intro, his name is Daniel Tong, and within these walls, you will find he's talking about his website, extensive body of work that covers films, gaming, corporate, and personal projects. His mission is to create and collaborate. So please let him know if you want to work together and create the best work possible. So that's from Daniel Tong's website, danieltongeditor.weebly.com. All right. Do you
Yes.
pronounce it? I know in Chinese it's Tong, or do you pronounce it Tong for
Um, yeah, in English, I usually say Tong.
okay,
So
okay.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. There are not too many
And
of us. So
oh yeah. And
the last name, yeah.
Daniel also is a musician. He plays guitar, he sings, and he also fluent in Mandarin. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. So before we start about your work in editing, let's get to know a little bit about you. So yeah, introduce yourself. So where are you from? What's your family background? Yeah. We mentioned your last name, you speak Mandarin. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, if I were to talk about my family background, that would be a long story. But
Okay.
I'll share a little bit. But yeah, yeah. So, my name is Daniel Tong. You obviously already know. And well, a long story short about my family background. I was born here in the States, San Francisco to be exact. And then my family was actually both my parents are born in Myanmar, Burma.
Oh,
Even though we're ethnically Chinese, but I think after World War II, after the changeover, and when the communism took over, folks either went to Taiwan or they went to other places, and my family happened to go to Burma. So that's why growing up, I remember our food being a mixture, like going to like Christmas, Thanksgiving. It was a mix between, you know, American, meals and also Chinese meals, but also like Burmese dishes that our family would make. So it was kind of interesting growing up with a mixture of of that because sometimes I'm like, wait, which one's Chinese, which one's Burmese, which one's and so that's a little bit about my family. And I grew up in the Bay Area. And in terms of like my interest in film, that began at a very early age. I have relatives in, well, first of all, I watched movies from a very young age. My parents would sit down and we would watch TV, and I got exposed to movies like E.T., Superman. I saw Alien at age 4. I remember that.
what? They allow
Yeah,
that?
yeah. I don't think they knew. There was like, oh, we're watching TV. Come on in. Let's sit down and watch Alien. So, definitely remember that, and that might be the reason why I like horror movies today. But
Oh man.
yeah, I think from a very young age, movies were always a part of my life, and my relatives. We live in the Bay Area, but my relatives lived in Los Angeles. So sometimes when we visit Los Angeles, we would go somewhere fun like Disneyland or other times Universal Studios. And so that was my first exposure to filmmaking. And I was always really fascinated by like the stuff you see behind the camera. And I remember like when I used to draw pictures, like if I say I drew a picture of like a scene from Back to the Future, I wouldn't just draw the DeLorean and the characters. I would draw the lights and the camera and like where the sets would begin and end. Like one part would look like the set in the movie, and then the other side would look like, oh, that's backstage. I don't know. I was just always fascinated by things that like the behind the scenes stuff. So and when I decided to become a filmmaker, that was a long process. I always knew I was going to get into the arts, and it just kind of evolved. I didn't realize film was a thing I can get into. Like it could be a major, and it just was kind of a long process. Started with, oh, I'll get into animation, I'll get into comic books, I'll get into theme park design. It eventually just led to, I think around high school, it was like, oh, it's time to choose a major. Like, wait, film can be a major? Let me look into this. And got a camcorder one Christmas, and from my parents, because they kind of knew that, oh, it's a phase. We'll just entertain him for a bit and maybe he'll pass over. And that thing that was when I really got into it. Just watched a lot of movies, shot a lot of videos. Really, this is during the time when DVDs were a big thing too, with special features. So they had a lot of making of stuff. So that's really when high school was really when I really dug deep into like what went into making movies, and me deciding, okay, this is what I want to do. So, yeah.
because I do remember, I don't know if you remember this. I think we had to do a video for a language. I think it was French class, or you had to do one for Spanish. Were you taking Spanish?
I was thinking French, but
You're taking
we did
French.
have to do video, yeah.
Yeah, I think we did a video together we filmed at your house, I believe.
Oh, did we? Oh
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah, that's
and
right.
then why law oh sorry, maybe I'll edit that out, but why he came by and he did uh he came as like the Spanish weather correspondent or
Oh
something. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So I remember distinctly like visiting your house like one time, and we made like a short video for French class. Yeah.
I do remember that. I remember Godzilla making an appearance at the very end.
Okay, I don't remember that. I remember some figure, but okay, Godzilla, nice. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think there's a scene where we're like, okay, now for the next use, Godzilla, and then I think
Yeah.
all of us shot scenes of us like pointing at the sky. Funny enough, I think another one of our friends named Daniel was there too, like
Oh, okay, all right.
Daniel Shem or some.
Maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay, yeah, okay.
yeah. He was like the news. You guys were the two main newscasters,
Yeah.
and then he was like the one that fell asleep.
Oh.
Would fall asleep. And then I remember so you guys were so funny. Like you pointed up into the sky, Godzilla, and then you woke up Daniel Shannon and he would point at Godzilla, and then we cut to a scene of Godzilla like rampaging through our paper sets or something.
Because I
Yeah.
believe you edited that one, right? Or
I edited that on two VCRs.
okay.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Oh,
At the
Daniel Sham.
beginning.
Oh yeah, that brings back memory. Okay. So your passion for editing or filmmaking, it, prior to that you were like watching films, but then it started to really come into fruit, I guess, bloom in high school, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. High school was the deciding factor, choosing a major.
Mm.
And it was a lonely process too. I remember it was a lonely kind of decision because
Oh,
I think at the
really?
time, yeah, because at the time, as far as I knew, I was the only person going to film,
Mm.
and it's we're if you want to go into like growing up Asian American,
Yeah. Let's get
at
into
least in
it.
the yeah. Okay, you want to get into it? All right. So the community I was a part of, everyone was all my friends, and they were getting to at least their parents were stressing that everyone was getting into engineering.
Mm.
That would be the direct path you would take to be successful. And my parents, I remember they were a little concerned, as parents should be. Of
Right.
course, you want your kids to succeed and have live stably and all that good stuff, right? And I remember they did try to convince me, like, are you sure you don't want to do this? Are you sure you don't want to do dentistry? Are you sure you don't want to do law? And I think they had several parents, friends talk to me, hey, are you sure you don't want to do this? Let me talk to you for about an hour about
Mm.
finance,
Oh, okay.
and by the end, I appreciate I appreciate the effort, but I think at the time I
Sure.
was like, at the end of it, I was like, nah, I still want to do film. And then
Mm.
when you're young, your parents' approval is kind of important, at the time. And I think remember my dad just sat down and said, okay, just to let you know, we don't know anybody in the film industry.
Right.
Like there's no one we can like send your way to coach you, to mentor you in this field. If you were doing engineering or something else, we could, but
Right. Yeah.
we can't. But you have our blessing. We'll support you however we can if you do decide to do this. And um, you know, just you do your thing. So that was the beginning of like right before I'm like, okay, I'm going to college, I'm going to film school, because this is I can't well, I couldn't really imagine myself doing anything else.
Mm.
That's what I wanted to do. And um, so I went to, I actually went for my undergrad, I went to UC Santa Cruz
Oh,
for film and digital media. And it was very interesting campus because it was very different from other campuses. It's very different from like say if you went to Berkeley, where it's um really close to the college town. Santa Cruz was up in the mountains, very foresty, and had a really good like arts program and program as well. But in terms of film production, resources were kind of low.
Mm.
So is they made it hard for you to get into production. um, because resources were low.
Oh
So
wow.
you had to take a written test to rent the camera, and they made the head test really hard. Yeah, yeah, I remember that. And then I think but I had my own camera. And
Oh.
so I don't know, it was because of that I didn't really care about getting to production. But I was just like, I got my camera. I can work on my own
Mm.
stuff. And plus their theory, I really liked their film theory program. Like there, it had all the like the usual stuff you would find in film school, experiment of film history and all that. But they also had classes that like, oh, we're going to teach you about Alfred Hitchcock's film, the entire class about Alfred Hitchcock, an
Mm.
entire film about techno thrillers. And my favorite class was one about teen films, like
Oh,
teen
coming of
cinema.
age films
Yeah,
or
coming of age films.
John Hughes or yeah.
Yeah, John Hughes, and we watched like a lot of the John Hughes films in that class. And that was actually the first time I seen some of those films too in class. So
Okay.
yeah. So that was a really big, robust, education in film theory, but not enough production.
Mm.
So when I graduated from school, from college, I actually went through this period where I thought, should I still be doing film? My mom always wanted me to do law.
Yeah.
Maybe I should, through some circumstance, I decided maybe I should do law. So I think a year, for a year, I actually did work at a law firm because my dad did actually know a lawyer. So, but during that time, while working at the law firm, I was also getting work as a videographer because I picked up some jobs working with other folks. In wedding videos. And I started off working with someone who already had their own company, but pretty soon I had friends who were asking me, "Hey, can you shoot my wedding? Can you edit something together?" And I think that's what got me the gears. If I didn't have that, I don't know if I would have stayed in film.
Um,
Uh, Maybe I would have, but I think having those gigs, having the opportunity to use my camera and just kind of keep going with that, I think um, made the process faster. Where I was like, okay, I'm going back to school, and for me, it was important to get back into production as well because
mm,
that's what I wanted to learn. And so, I applied to grad school. Went to Academy of Art University, and this time around, I got the full okay from my parents. I think the first time around they were like kind of hesitant. They're like, we don't know what you're doing. So it was
right.
important that I took them to an orientation and just, hey, this is what the school has to offer. And they're like, all right, go home and finish the application. We're convinced.
This is the
They
one
didn't
in
have,
What?
San Francisco, Academy of Art.
yeah,
Or
this is one in San Francisco.
okay.
So they didn't have to get, I would have went if they didn't give me their blessing, but yeah, but I think for me it was important that okay, I know you guys want me to be a lawyer, but I want you to know this is what I want to do, and I'm going to show you what I'm getting myself into.
Mm,
How did you
Uh,
just select that school versus like some other ones?
that was the school that I originally wanted to go to.
Oh,
I think part of me still wants to stay in the Bay
right.
Area,
mm,
and I think the commercials help too. The commercials on TV that advertise
Oh,
Academy of Art University um, on TV, and I knew of a few folks who went as well, and it sounded like a good program. I applied to two schools, UCLA and Academy of Art, and then I think UCLA I applied too late,
okay.
so that ended up I just cutting that, and I was like, okay, I'm putting all my chips in Academy of Art University, and so
Was
mm.
yeah, so I got
so was
in. Oh, go
was
ahead.
that your undergrad
That was
then?
my grad school, so that
That's
was
your
grad
grad
school.
school. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so I got in and but I hadn't decided what I wanted to focus on in film, I think me like many people who go into film, I was like, oh, maybe I'll be a director.
Right.
And then but even then I was like, well, I'm not sure if that's what I want to do. And so one of the reasons I wanted to go back to school was to kind of find out what I wanted to do. And when I first entered, the director of the department was like, all right, here are the majors you guys can choose: directing, screenwriting, cinematography, editing. When he said editing, I was like, wait, I can focus on editing? Like,
Mm,
I've been editing. I like editing.
yeah.
Let me focus on that. So that ended up becoming my major, and that basically changed changed everything. That kind of determined my focus from then on. Like, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm going to like spend my time being in school and just kind of focusing on and working with others if folks ask, I'm an editor, this is what I
Right.
can help you guys with. And the school did stress collaboration with other folks in the field, and that was the experience that I wanted. So yeah, became an editor.
That's cool. And for like the finances part, like throughout undergrad and grad school, are your parents supporting you, or are you working these gigs like videography gigs to help pay for tuition? Like how's your financing work? Yeah.
Well, I'm still paying off my student loans.
Ah.
So yeah, Santa Cruz was interesting. It was a joint. I was in a program with I don't know if you guys want to get into it, but I was under a joint program where it was like the parents would pay a bit, but then I would pay a bit as
Hmm.
well. So and then Academy of Art was all me. So
Wow. And that's
yeah,
the more expensive one, right? Yeah.
that's more expensive.
Way more expensive.
Yeah.
Private school.
It is indeed. It was I'm still one of the many who are still in the student loan, world. And
Is
but
that
I
gonna
would
get
say
forgiven? Isn't Biden gonna forgive you guys or
I hope so. I hope
yeah.
so. I haven't gotten the letter yet.
Yeah, student
It
loan forgiveness. Okay.
it depends
Yeah.
on your income level. So if your
It,
income level is not steady, then you have a higher chance of getting that forgiven.
yeah. My income just became unsteady. So, but we can talk about that in a bit. So maybe I'll get an email first, like little insight, little truthful insight into the film world.
Wow.
But yeah, like a lot of people ask me, like, is it worth it to go to film school?
Hmm.
I think it's different for everybody.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
there are a lot of folks who naturally kind of find their way, like, instantly in the film industry without going to school. Quentin Tarantino did. And
Yeah.
I think that's the big example. For me, I was still kind of searching. I think at the time I was very awkward. Was very introverted, so it's hard for me to kind of uh, naturally kind of get connected with people at the time, like unless it was a kind of in a environment like school. In school, the whole point of that program was everyone has a role, and you're going to work with each other whether you like it or not. So
Right.
Hmm.
yeah. So, for me too, I wanted to look for my area that I wanted to focus on in films. So um going to school kind of helped me with that. Like, okay, I'm in this place where everyone's target is the same. It's just everyone's choosing a different role, and here are the different roles that you can focus on. It's kind of like getting dropped into a match. I'm using a video game reference. Getting dropped into a match of Overwatch or something, and you have like the healer, and you have the damage, and you have the shield person. It's just kind of
Hmm.
like you choose the role that you think you're best at, and just like go with it. All right, part of a team. Let's go. So,
Right.
so yeah. Despite the loose student loans thing, I really don't have regrets about my time there. Just because it did help me kind of find, something that I truly was passionate about. I truly did love doing, and but still doing it now. So, yeah,
So,
yeah,
so your answer to that question is for you personally was yes. Going to film school helped you or was worth it.
yes,
Okay.
yes. For me, it helped. Yes.
Because like yeah, Academy of Art, like I've heard good stories, I've heard bad stories of
Oh yeah.
it's like rip off whatever, or some people say I found my community there. So it's like I've heard a mixed bag from about that school.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah, coming being from the Bay Area and involved the art scene. But I've had friends who taught there, so
Yeah.
yeah. So uh I do think that it's interesting that you mentioned that because like I think each person has their own path as far as what works best for them. Like you mentioned Tarantino, or like I it reminds me of like I met one guy. I was living in Taiwan at the time, and he was studying Chinese on his own, and I was
Mm.
going to like a Mandarin training center, and but he was studying on his own, and his Mandarin was already better than mine. He's like some white guy from the Midwest or something, and I was just like, wow, like and he was asking me, whose Mandarin was like not that as good as his. He was asking me, hey, how do you like classes? Is it good? And I told him like, hey man, like your man is already like better than mine. If you are, because he loved studying languages, he would study on his own like at least 2 hours a day or something like that. And I was like, if you're doing those, you're putting those hours every day on your own, then to be honest, I don't see. Maybe the only upside I think would be is to meet friends, make a community, the social aspect,
Yeah.
and I know for me personally, maybe, I hate to say it, but I know myself in that I'm not that disciplined actually of like studying on my own 1 to 2 hours a day, language and stuff. So for me, like that's how I became, conversationally fluent in Mandarin.
Yeah.
And also that's where I met, some friends I speak to still to this day. So, but yeah, I do think that the idea of school for whatever field, yeah, it's really a personal question. For me, I went to De Anza, De Anza College for
Mm,
film school, and then after that, I went to City College of San Francisco, and then eventually for grad school, I did screenwriting in California State Northridge. But
oh, nice.
uh, yeah, and but like some of those guys that I met in community college who never went to like film, like a 4 year film school or whatever, like they're working, they're
Yeah.
all working, and that each person has their own path. Because like I think for some of them, regardless if they went to like a 4 year or grad school, like I think they would still be doing it, on they had that thing, that internal motivation.
Yeah.
Whereas some people, I think they needed the school to get to open. I know for myself, and it seems like for you as well, to realize, oh, I'm not A, B, or C. Like for me, I was like, oh, I'm not a cinematographer. Like I took cinematography class and I kept messing up like lighting and stuff. And I was like, man, I thought really hard about this lighting sequence, and then the
Yeah.
cinematography, the lighting teacher's like, oh, something's a little off. It's like a little, yeah. And then I realized, yeah, I like looking at film, but as for me, like so that's more like gaffing, I guess. But like, yeah, yeah, maybe I'm not a gaffer or lighter, but I still I dabbled in it. But at least I have, because of school, I have an understanding of those fields, and I also have an understanding of myself of like, oh, what do I want? What fits me or my particular temperament, I guess is the way to say it. But yeah.
Yeah.
So after grad school, Daniel, was it easy like finding your first gig, or were you always working during grad school?
Yeah.
Oh man. The first time I entered grad school, again, this goes back to the director of our department. The very first day, he was like, "Don't be surprised if the first job you get out of grad school is at a Starbucks." And my first job out of school was not at Starbucks. It was at Fry's Electronics.
Oh,
So yeah, so it was a bit of after graduating, um it took some time before I finally found some gigs. I got gigs here and there, but it
right.
wasn't like consistent
But
at first.
how did you find those gigs? I mean, it's not like classified ads, you don't answer those ads for like a video editor wanted. But
Yeah,
so
a lot of it was through word of mouth. What eventually did get me like consistent gigs was word of mouth. And this is important too for any folks thinking of getting into film, going
mhm,
to film school, or just going get into the
right.
industry in general. Uh, Networking is important.
Yeah.
Who you know, who you get to know, and who you work with, can come into play later on. Because the first like true editing gig that I got, because after graduating, the stuff that I was getting was mostly, again, same, videography stuff, like events, weddings, and all that. And but like the first like gig that I got was like, you are an editor, you're like the assistant editor, was through a friend that I knew back at Academy of Art University. He had graduated before me and had gotten a job in Sausalito, California, at a post production house, or a production house.
Right.
And he just called me up one day while I was working at Fry's, actually, late night at Fry's. And he was, "Hey, are you doing anything at the moment? Are you editing?" I was like, "No, I'm pretty free." And he was like, "If you're free, we're looking for assistant editors and editors, to come help us out, if you want to do an interview." with our boss. You guys got to
Right.
meet up. So that ended up being my first like true freelance editing gig. And that was in January 2nd,
Uh-huh.
2012.
Oh,
Um,
in the new year.
in the new year, yeah, literally the new year. So, um, and that because of um, that recommendation from a friend, that led to kind of other gigs that would come later on, like because I'd worked there, the producer, one of the producers at that production house knew someone else at the name of the studio in Sausalito was Emotion Studios.
Okay.
They worked with companies like Adobe, HP, like little
Right.
promos. The one of the producers at Emotion Studios knew someone who worked at Ubisoft Entertainment, a video game company
Right.
based in one of our offices was based in San Francisco, and work looking for editors. And I got that gig because the producer there that was hiring knew the producer at Emotion.
Right.
And then someone else at Ubisoft knew someone else at another studio, and so on and so forth. And that's how I got a lot of gigs. And even the job I got at Pixar, that was through someone that I knew that I met at Edit Fest in LA. That was just randomly met someone. I thought it's funny. I met someone at Edit Fest. It's a festival for editors every year in Los Angeles, and I saw someone that I thought I knew, I recognized,
Okay.
and funny enough, she thought she recognized me as someone else she knew, but it turns out we didn't know each other at all. And so we're like, I don't think we know each other. No, no, but
I've used that to pick up women actually before, but
oh
anyways, go ahead.
yeah.
Hey,
You did
do I
that to
know
me.
you?
Yeah. I made a movie
But in
about
your
it.
case, it was legit. Like you sincerely thought it looked like someone you.
I sincerely thought it was someone I knew back in the Bay, but it
No.
wasn't. But just so happened, and this was in LA, it just so happened both of us were from the Bay.
Oh
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, and so
You can sense it. Your Bay Area sense on, or
yeah, yeah, just my
yeah.
Bay Area sense is tingling and
Yeah.
everything. And so she like her name is Chelsea Walton. We're still really good friends to this day. Like we started trading contacts, and we started trading like freelance gigs that we couldn't do because we were already on one gig or another. And
Mm.
she was able to get into Pixar first, and it was kind of the same thing too. She called me one day, like I think it's right like the week before I was supposed to leave for a vacation to Japan, and she was like, yeah, she was always like right before or something. Um, she was like, "Hey, we're looking for folks to help us out at Pixar. Would you like to interview for it?" And that was a dream job for me. Like I've always been a fan of um, those films, and
Right.
when Toy Story 3 came out on the DVD, they had a documentary about editors in Pixar, and it was that same department that created that documentary that was hiring. Like, ooh, I've always wanted to,
Right.
work with you guys. So interviewed the day before I was supposed to leave for Japan, literally the day before I did a phone interview with them, and then all right, cool, we'll let you know if we'd like to come in. And so I'm like, all right, I'm going to Japan. So went to Japan with my brother and my sister-in-law, and we were literally on the train to Disneyland Tokyo.
Oh, I was
When I
there
got
earlier this month. Disney Sea, but yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, amazing park. Yeah, but yeah, we were literally on the train going to Tokyo Disneyland, and I got the call or the message like, "Hey, we want you. Yeah, come on in when you get back from Japan." I'm like, literally like the three of us on the train. I was like, "Dude, I got the job." The three of us were like jumping up and down
Mm.
on the train. Everyone was just like looking at us like, what's going on?" And so yeah, it's just, long story short, I think a lot of the gigs that I got was through kind of word of mouth connections, networking, which was again, it was a challenge for me because I was very introverted, very awkward, talking to folks in the beginning, but I knew even early on, like even working with wedding videos, I had to kind of learn how to, you know,
Right.
talk to
Interact.
folks,
Yeah.
interact, and just kind
Yeah.
of be social to a certain extent. And it's, you do stuff for your passion, right? You do stuff. I always say I'm screaming on the inside when I'm trying to be social, but I'm doing it because I want to, you know,
Right.
You know, I'm doing because I want, you know, I want to be a filmmaker. I want to get to know, get more gigs, you know, get to know
Mm.
folks, and you know, it got easier, you know.
So it seems like going to grad school was a great thing, right? You found your thing, your calling,
Yeah,
editing, and then also it led to your first gig, and that set you on the path of like other gigs after that. So
yeah,
the alumni at Academy of Arts, and then got your first job at Emotion, got you out of prize, went to Ubisoft, and et cetera, et cetera. So
yeah, yeah.
so it totally sounds like grad school was worthwhile.
Yeah, yeah. For me, definitely, I think it was the best choice. I one of the best choices I ever did.
Mm.
How long was grad school?
Grad school was my program was about 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then at grad school, was it just like, were you just constantly editing? Like you collaborate with other filmmakers who are directors and photographers, cinematographers, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna edit this, blah 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 blah, and then you just go from there.
Yeah, yeah. It was I was editing everything and anything that came my way. I was just I'm hungry. Like that's the best
Right.
way for me. So I'm hungry. Please let me cut something that's not a wedding video. Uh so and you know, it was a good mixture of stuff too. Narratives, documentaries, really love documentaries.
Right.
And you know, commercials as well and other stuff. Like folks are trying everything. Like school is a great place
Yeah.
for to try everything. So
Yeah.
that was kind of my experience there, you know. So
And was the Pixar gig pretty steady? I mean, did you just like stay there? It was a freelance gig, or is it just like, oh, uh, you're actually a Pixar employee?
it was a freelance gig. It was by contract.
Okay.
It's funny because that one started off as a 3 month thing.
Uh-huh.
Like we're just gonna have you for 3 months, but I think that one ended up being a year.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, my first year with them was the end of 2014 into the end of 2014 to the end of 2015. It was when they were working on Inside Out and The Good Dinosaur.
Okay.
Yeah, so Inside Out was my first film working
Mm.
with Pixar, and that was with the document. It was called documentary department back then. Now it's called creative content, but
Mm.
they were responsible for the making of documentaries on the DVD, Blu-rays, and eventually moved on to, you know, doing stuff on Disney Plus as well, like Inside Pixar, the making of Turning Red, and the making of Lightyear. So yeah,
So you
Does Pixar actually have a lot of freelance people, or do they have like a lot of in-house people as well?
they have quite a bit of freelancers. Uh, from what I know, from what I've heard,
Right.
it's funny. It's like I'm a freelancer. It's like who do I know that's a freelancer? Um, we did have quite a few freelancers, as far as I know, coming in and out. Because like I would run into someone every now and then, and we would find out, oh, you're a contractor. Oh, I'm a contractor too. And you know, so
Right.
it's like, can you go to the after party? No, I can't either. No, okay, cool. So
let's have our own after party.
yeah, yeah, let's just have our own party with Mario Kart or whatever. No. But yeah, yeah. So I mean those it was really cool. That was one of the coolest gigs
Hmm.
I've ever gotten. They treated us pretty well. You know, it was a grind. It was a grind sometimes, but I think as
Oh.
far as just like and then they knew it too.
Right.
They knew it could be a grind sometimes, and so you know you know, facilities. I guess it's similar to Google or something, but you know the facilities were nice. You know, it was a good culture to be at. I think
Hmm.
just folks there, you know, really cool folks, and the only thing I was kind of annoyed at was I couldn't go to the after parties.
Ah.
Like
Yeah.
the rap
Yeah.
parties for each film because I'm a contractor. So you can only get to a certain point
Right.
if you're a freelancer there. Like I
I,
don't get my name on the credits on the
Ah.
films, so I get them on the special features. So you watch the special features and the docs. They do
right.
have the freelancers' names
Wait,
on
so you
those.
did you so correct, so you worked on specifically on the making ofs, for example, the making of Inside Out, the making of Turning Red, the making of Buzz. You worked on those, but you also worked on the film as well, the actual film?
No, not on the
No.
actual film.
Okay, just the creative content, the documentaries about the
Yeah,
films. Got it.
yes,
Yeah,
strictly on the making of stuff. So I was an assistant editor
got it.
for those, like a lot of organizing footage, lots of logging. like
Oh,
5 years,
geez, that's grimy.
5 years worth of footage. So 8 years worth of footage, depending on the film.
So, can you list some of the films that some of the behind the scenes films that you worked on? You worked on Inside Out.
Inside Out. Let
Okay.
me try to name. So Inside Out. Uh, what was the other one? Oh, Good
Good
Dinosaur.
dinosaur.
Good Dinosaur.
Finding Dory. Coco. Coco was a long one. That was a good one.
Wow.
Uh, yeah, that was a fun one. Incredibles 2. Soul. Onward. Luca. Uh, Turning Red. And the last one I worked on was Lightyear.
Hmm.
They told me I worked on Toy Story 4, but I don't remember working on Toy Story 4. They gave me a ticket to watch the movie because you worked on it. It's like, I don't remember working on that. So I probably did for a short time. So yeah, and Cars, I think Cars 3 as well. Yeah, I did work on Cars 3.
Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
any
So
particular
that
film? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Dan.
does that must span more than just like that 2014, 2015, just like went back and forth. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I went back a couple times. So 2014, 2015, and I took a break. I think at the end of 2016, I went back until 2017, and then went back in 2019, and the end of 2019, all the way through the pandemic, lockdown, and everything.
Oh, you
Uh-huh.
are
And
an online editor, right?
I was an online, yeah. They moved me up from editing, from assistant editor to online editor, and I finished up in July 2022. That's when I moved on to Blizzard. So yeah, I was there for a long time. I was there for quite a while.
Wow. As an online editor, you're working remotely, or you're still working? You going to Emeryville still for Pixar, or
In the beginning stages, we all had to work from home.
okay?
So yeah, I began my stint. So that I got brought back to Pixar in 2019. I was actually working in LA by then, and I was working at a game company. So one thing throughout my career, I've always bounced between the film world and the gaming world because I'm a big
Oh,
gamer.
interesting.
You know,
Yeah.
I'm a huge gamer, so I like and I got my a lot of my experience working at Ubisoft too. So I've always loved kind of going back to that. So I was working at a game company, mobile game company, for most of 2019, and then they ran into some difficulties and had to lay off a lot of us in late 2019. So that's when I went back to Pixar. And by then they were prepping to do some stuff for Disney Plus, and they're like, "Hey, do you have any experience with online editing?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And so they're like, "Okay, we're moving you. We're adding to your list of stuff to do. Like in addition to assistant editor, we need an online editor." So this happened before we knew we were going into lockdown too.
Right.
Oh, interesting.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. So we went to lockdown, and we were like, "Oh, geez, let's figure out how to do this. Like, let's figure out how to do online editing from online." So,
Mm,
so we for most of 2020 we were working remotely, and 2021 was when we started to let some folks back into the studio, uh, including myself. Like, I think I started once I got the okay, like it's okay to come back in. I would go in when we were getting towards the tail end of finishing up certain
Right.
projects because I wanted to be at the console and just kind of be able to make sure everything was working okay. If there was like a hardware issue, I don't have to call them up and, hey, can you go reconnect
So
this.
when you worked online or working from home, what kind of rig or setup did you have?
I just had my laptop. Like they gave me a laptop.
And that was
uh
strong enough?
it was strong enough to connect to the station back at the studio.
Okay.
So yeah, so everyone had to use a virtual like, desktop and connect
Right.
to a station at the studio and use the Avid machines or use the DaVinci machines and
Right.
do stuff from there.
That
mm.
makes sense.
So what exactly is an online editor? Can you for people who are not familiar with that term? What does that what does that entail? No.
Sure, sure, sure. So online and offline are I'll explain those first. So well, first of all, I was saying like the reason we have online and offline is because first of all, footage, really, really high definition footage is huge. It's
Yeah.
it's a huge file, and when you try to play it on a software, like an editing software or something, it will probably sputter and I can't play.
Right.
So what happens is we would take those huge files and turn them into smaller proxy files,
Mm.
and those would run much smoother in an editing software. Like it's a lower quality, but it's easier to run on your editing machine. So um, the editor would start off working on the cut with that smaller footage, like smaller files first, with the proxy. So that would be called offline editing. You're not working with the final footage, but you're working like a proxy, a
Right.
stand-in for what would be in the
Right, and
final.
that links to the original file, which I guess the proxy is a stand-in for the original file, and then the original file eventually they'll just like when in the final edit, the original file is put back where the proxy was, correct? Or yeah.
Correct, correct. So once once the director in a perfect world, once the director gives gives the okay, and like we're picture locked, meaning we're done, this is the cut, we're going to move forward with this, it's ready to
Yeah.
go into color and sound. That's when they send it to the online editor. So the online editor will make sure the high definition footage goes back online to where it goes in the timeline in your editing
Oh,
sequence.
okay.
So in a perfect world, the online editor would be able to be like, oh, okay. Again, the proxy files would have the same file name as the high definition, like the higher res footage, and
Hmm.
they're just located in different places on your hard drive or whatever. So the online editor would go in and find those footage or graphics or whatever, and just reconnect that to the um, the online sequence. So
Hmm.
which takes time. It took time for us because the editors were cutting on Premiere, and but the onlining had to be done in DaVinci Resolve, which is usually used for color correction, for final color, and
Hmm.
that's what our colorist was going to use. So we had to online everything in DaVinci Resolve so it could be ready for ready for him to work with it. So,
Oh,
but
wow.
yeah, yeah. But I don't know if you guys know anything about like and those listening about editing software. They all speak a different language, like
Mm.
in the code, whatever. So
Right.
when you try to export say an XML file, which is like a package you bring into another software to recreate the sequence you created in another software. So say I edited this in Premiere. Now I want to send this over to uh, DaVinci Resolve or Avid. They would send an XML and they would recreate that timeline in DaVinci Resolve or Avid. So in this case with DaVinci Resolve. So and I remember, and this is kind of a learning curve for us too. It would recreate most of the timeline,
Oh gosh.
but not all of it. Like
So you have to go through it.
I would have
Yeah.
to go, I would have to go through it. I had to ask the original editors, "Hey, can you just give me the original Premiere Pro project? Just let me go in and see what I'm missing." Because literally, there would be huge gaps in the timeline where clips are supposed to be, but they're not. Like they're not in the DaVinci timeline, and I was like, what's going on? And it was a lot of discovery too. It was a lot of learning. Okay, this is why if you do a multicam clip in Premiere, which is like you're taking a lot of cameras from the same take, you're just shooting from different angles and creating a multicam clip, that will not translate in Premiere. It's just going to
Hmm.
show up as empty. So you have to do you once you're ready to like bring that over to another software, you have to do something like you have to flatten the
Mm-hmm.
the clip or commit. I forgot the language for it in Premiere, but basically you have to okay and be like, okay, this is a clip now. It's not a multi-cam clip, and send that over to DaVinci Resolve. Other things were like some clips will be like when you bring them to DaVinci Resolve, it just extend all the way and just cover up your overlap your entire timeline. I was like, what's going on? And it was like, oh, okay. If you put a transition at the end of a PNG clip in Premiere, it's gonna create a long clip from that one little clip, and
Oh,
yeah, so all these little things would come up.
right.
It's just like, and DaVinci Resolve, it's a great tool for color correction, but it's a horrible, and it's a great tool for editing. If you're pretty sure you're going to edit something that's just picture and no graphics, no motion graphics and all that, just picture. But these docs that we were creating had a lot of like flashy graphics, a lot of like motion graphics, a lot of titles coming in, and you can do a lot of that easily in Premiere, like
Mm,
easily. Just do a couple things and that's fine. You can't do that as easily in DaVinci Resolve. Like,
mm,
I spent an entire weekend trying to recreate one effect. Like it was just simple vignette, like little spotlight on the character, and like it was easily done in Premiere. I could just do this. This is like, it's fine. DaVinci Resolve was like, okay, I can do this, but I can't do that. If I do that, it won't let me do this. It was like, so,
oh gosh.
yeah. So you would
Oh,
have to find, we had to all constantly find a solution. That's part of being an editor. Like whether you're an online editor, assistant editor, you're trying to find solutions to get the job done. And for something like that, it was just like go back to the editor and Premiere, like export me a ProRes of just that clip with all the FX baked in. We're not recreating this in DaVinci
right.
Resolve. So,
Wow,
um,
that sounds, yeah, tedious. Okay,
it
yeah.
was a yeah, it was a challenging role, the online editor. But
Mm,
I learned a lot. I think it really
right.
I like a good challenge, I guess. I
Right,
don't know.
right.
I
I
love and hate a good
mean,
challenge, but yeah.
it's interesting because not many people hear like those specifics of like, oh, this PNG file has a transition. Like a lot of people, yeah, just coming from the general lay person watching a film, whoa, that's so cool. And, it's like magic, right? Like kind of when we watch films as kids, right? Oh, but to hear it from like the truly like technical slash detail point, it's interesting because we don't normally hear that in everyday conversation. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, I don't know if that would be interesting. It's a lot
No,
of
I
people
find
for
it.
so okay.
So
Dan, did you find that interesting?
I did. Yeah, it's uh, sounds like DaVinci Resolve doesn't sound like the program to use. It sounds like Adobe Premiere is like the one.
Adobe Premiere is still hands down, in my personal opinion, the best,
Ooh,
editing software out
Foxshire.
there. Yeah, I know shots fired, but let me explain. Um, I don't have any gripes against DaVinci Resolve at all either, because I have used that for editing. It's just
Right.
Avid?
what you decide. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, Avid? Yeah.
It's not my choice for editing, but it is good. It does have its benefits. It's a great um, collaboration like software. Like if you have more than one person working on a project, DaVinci,
Mm,
no, not DaVinci,
Avid.
Avid is
Okay.
a great way to go. And I'll even compliment Final Cut Pro 10. I I personally don't like it. I'm sorry for all those listening out there who do use it, and there are benefits to using. I think it is a great tool for those who've never edited before, because it does streamline the process. It has a built-in assistant editor in there. It's basically a
Right.
built-in assistant editor, and it does stuff for you, already. It's like pre-done, but I would only recommend it if you are absolutely sure you're the only person who's ever going to touch this edit.
Right.
Like
Um,
absolutely sure. Because when you try sending, this is just from my experience, when folks start sending it to you, and you're trying to work, it's like, this is missing, that's missing. Where's this file? Why are there 500 layers of in the sequence for subtitles? It's like it's like receiving a project from another editor, but the original assistant editor is out of town forever, and you don't know
Mm.
where everything
that's for Final
is.
Cut Pro.
That's for
The,
Final Cut Pro
the
X. Yeah,
right,
yeah,
right.
yeah.
But your
So
choice, yeah, sorry, go ahead. Your choice is Premiere or
yeah, my choice is Premiere.
hmm.
And that's just that's the tool that I for what I need to do. Like Lots of motion. Like sometimes I do need to do titles and motion graphics.
Right.
That's the easiest way for me to do it. It's and they work with After Effects and Photoshop, and they got a whole kind of
Sweet. Yeah.
suite in there that kind of speaks to each other. So and it was a natural progression from what I originally learned editing on, which is Final Cut Pro 7,
Final Cut Pro
which is a
7.
yeah, you're right.
Gee, yeah. So first it was like Windows cut classic or classic
Me
editor
media
or
player or
media player.
media player.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, actually, the first one that I used was the original iMovie.
Ah.
Yeah, before it was changed by the guy who created Final Cut Pro 10.
Mm,
But yeah, I moved on from that to Final Cut Pro 7. So it was a natural progression for me to move on to Premiere
yeah.
because the same guy who created Final Cut Pro 7 created Premiere. Actually, he created Premiere before Final Cut Pro 7, and they
Oh.
called him back. Yeah, Adobe called him back because he was like, "Hey, you're doing pretty well with the Apple stuff. Can you come back and help us improve your original baby?" I guess so.
Mm,
Folks out there could correct me if I'm wrong, but that's kind of what I understand. Like, so it was the same architecture that I was used to. And
right.
so it was a natural progression for me to go from like, okay, Final Cut Pro 7 to I think it was CS6 at the time when they really started to
Mm,
ramp up. And it's the language that I understand, that I'm comfortable with in terms of editing. And I've seen, it in like folks do ask me, hey, which tool should I use? I'm like, if you can afford it, if you manage it, Premiere Pro, but if you are comfortable using something else, whether it's Final Cut Pro 10, DaVinci Resolve, and you're already doing your stuff pretty quickly, like whether it's Avid or whatever, just use it,
Right.
just use what
mm.
you're comfortable with. So, yeah.
So Da
And then
Vinci. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Dan. Yeah.
no, I was gonna switch topics about gaming, right? Because we now know you've done a lot of documentaries, and then what do you do for gaming? Is it like mostly cutscenes and stuff?
No, it was actually mostly trailers and promos at Ubisoft. That's where I got started
Okay.
with the gaming stuff. So that was actually my second gig after Emotion Studios. And because most of what I was doing at Emotion was assistant editing. Occasionally like some editing stuff here and there. But I think Ubisoft was really where I started getting really heavy editing work, and it was mostly trailers and like, promotional videos. Like it could be as simple as like a 30-second spot like promoting
Right.
this a trailer for this game, or it was like a dev, like a developer video, like, hey, so and so, I created Assassin's Creed. Here we're here to talk about this game. Or we would do internal videos like end of year retrospectives, like, hey, we had a great year, this is what we did, here's like a fun, like, epic dramatic
Right.
retrospective on our awesome year.
Mm.
And I've done motion, here's a fun fact, I've done motion capture for the Just Dance games,
Oh.
for some of
Wait,
the
you're the person dancing.
I'm not the person okay, so I'm not the original person you see on the screen, but I was they needed some of my first gigs, they needed someone to play the game and do
Oh,
a recording of that. That just to show if there was like a new song or something, they would do like a short video of just that song and just like a
okay.
short clip of that song. It's like this is how you play, this is how you be good. And I some of my first tasks I did for that job was was doing that
Mm.
for Just Dance. And it was funny too because I went in thinking, oh, Ubisoft, do I get to work on Assassin's Creed, Splinter Cell, Far Cry? It's like, no, you're working on Just Dance. Like, oh, okay. Which actually ended up being really fun. They did
Oh.
some really really fun um promos for that. They really tried like everything they could to like push out um promotional stuff for that game. And funny enough, that was the way I was exposed to new songs as well. So that kept me in a loop about what was popular with the
So
kids. So,
what about that Activision Blizzard?
so Activision Blizzard, that was the last video game company I worked for. July 2022 to July 2023, this year actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was with the esports division with Activision Blizzard. So we worked on um stuff for Overwatch League and Call of Duty League.
Okay.
And it was several different things. It was one is obviously the live events, the matches, the tournaments
Yeah.
of the esports players competing, whatever. And the other side was doing features. We call them features, which was basically, for example, if this one player is kind of gaining a lot of notice, getting a lot of attention, we're doing a highlight. Let's do a highlight video about this one player. Just kind of show like where they came
Okay.
from and just like talk about them. And or a player is retiring. This player's been around since the beginning of esports. Let's do like a tribute to this player. Um, or fun videos like, oh, it's Halloween. We've got this new uh player skin for Overwatch. Let's do a video that promotes it. So lots of that. And that was my first leadership role, I think. Yeah, it was my first true leadership role after Pixar. It was a lead my role was a lead assistant editor.
Hmm.
And so I remember that came at a point when I was at Pixar where it's like, I'm really ready to move on. Ready for kind of like I love it here, but I would like some leadership experience.
Hmm.
Right.
In what I do. And I also kind of wanted to go back to the gaming world as well. So that job came at the right time. And it was just like, oh, I love it here at Pixar, but I'm ready to move on. So left in 2022 and left Pixar in 2022 and joined Activision Blizzard and just did that for a year. And it was an amazing experience. I think it was definitely tough at the beginning because again, I like I knew I needed some leadership experience and from the get-go I was like, okay, this is definitely very new to me and just like I'm the one making decisions on um workflow and just QCing like whether or not something it gets to go out into the world or it needs to go back for more changes and stuff like that. But definitely it was the again one of the best another one of the best choices I made in my career because it
Hmm.
came at the right time and it was just in a place where it's like I'm ready to kind of get to the next level where I wanted to be. And I got to go back to the gaming world. Um which is funny because even though I play a lot of games, I didn't play a lot of Blizzard games.
Mm.
Diablo? No?
I watched my friends play Diablo. I watched my brother play Diablo. I love Diablo now.
Oh.
Love it so much. But it was funny because I did 4 interviews with the team when I was interviewing for the role. Each person, I was like, "Hey, just to let you know, I don't play Overwatch. I don't play Call of Duty. Is that okay?"
Yeah.
They were like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine." So, but when I got the job, um, if I know I'm going to be invested in a certain role, a certain place, I will immerse myself in what they do. Like same thing happened with Ubisoft as well. It was just like, okay, I know I'm going to be here. Let me dive into these games. So I spent a lot of time playing Overwatch. I spent a lot of time playing Call of Duty. I think I played through several Call of Duty games, and
Hmm.
which is fun. I do enjoy those games now, especially zombie mode. But it for Blizzard, it was interesting too because I got into the other games as well. I got into World of Warcraft. Got obsessed with World of Warcraft like several years too late, but I got pretty obsessed with it and got into the Diablo games. Like played Diablo 3 with a friend. She taught me how to play it and like properly, quote unquote properly, and we finished that game. I was obsessed with Diablo 4 uh, when it came out, and finished that game, and then I'm still playing Diablo Immortal, even though folks complain about the game. It's a good game. I swear, it's a good game. You don't have to
Huh.
buy anything for it to be a good game. You can get through quite a bit of that game without buying anything.
Is that like an
Uh,
add-on to Diablo 4 or
it's the mobile game.
it's a mobile
Oh,
game? Oh,
It's
okay.
on the iPhone.
I got a
So,
PlayStation 5 just to play Diablo 4, but I still haven't downloaded Diablo 4. I'm gonna get around to it.
oh,
But yeah,
dude,
I heard good things. Yeah.
it's a great game. Again, same thing. You don't necessarily have to buy extra stuff for the game to be good.
Got it.
The campaign is great. The world is amazing, and it goes back to kind of Diablo 2, that dark kind of gritty world
Oh.
and everything. Because I know Diablo 3 was a little more cartoony, a little more World of Warcrafty,
Mm.
um, which was fun. But I could understand when folks were like, we missed the old. Because I did
Oh,
go back and play
dark.
Diablo 2 as well, get dark, and
Yeah.
like I'm like, oh, okay, that's what folks are talking about. And I actually am playing Diablo 2 right now on the Switch.
Oh,
Mm.
there.
Getting through that game's so hard. Dude, that
It's
game's so
hard.
hard. It's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, yeah. So
Going back to
yeah.
like from the films that you worked on at Pixar, were there any like particular like working on the documentaries for the films at Pixar prior to going to back to gaming? I'm kind of curious about like was there any like experience there that kind of stood out? Like which films? Like was it Turning Red? Was it like Lightyear? Where as far as like the experience working on that behind the scenes stuff? Because I'm assuming you're seeing a lot of the filmmaking process, which you're probably taking in as well as a filmmaker yourself. Like, well, this is great to learn about. So I'm kind of curious to hear about which film or which films like stood out for you during your work there.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of an easy answer. In terms of like the two films that stood out to me that I had the best time working on were Coco and Turning Red.
Mm.
Mm,
Um, yeah, yeah. Coco, I think it was just it was one of the longest projects I'd worked on. And um it was very interesting to see all the research and all the collaboration that went into that project.
mm,
Like when you're talking about like the film itself, like there's five or more years worth of research footage. And
Jeez. Mm,
yeah. And so it was really cool to see, like, because they took a lot of the footage that I had to organize and go through um were research trips to Oaxaca, Mexico,
mm,
and just kind of seeing like all the research, all the work, all the time they spent there, to just kind of get to know the area, get to know, like, okay, we're representing this place, so let's actually stay with the family, you know, and get to know the culture, get to know the music, and like because I remember one of the artists talking about like there's a moment, if you've seen the movie, there's a moment the grandma would use the shoe to hit like the
Right.
kids when she
ah,
get
yeah.
mad. And yeah, I remember that was a direct recommendation from one of the artists. They're
Mm,
like, we should have the abuelita, hit them with a shoe, because you know, that's what that's an
that's
inside joke that we knew. Yeah, yeah. So, same thing with Turning Red as well. It's an Asian American, Asian Canadian director,
mm,
and it's an Asian Canadian story. I grew up Asian American, so it's cool kind of seeing a lot of that uh like implemented into the story, just into the characters, and just really relating with that.
right.
And I think the reason why I choose Turning Red and Coco as my two favorite films to have worked on, because I could relate with them pretty closely.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
Coco is about a kid who wants to be an artist. He wants to be a musician, and his passion is to be a musician. And Turning Red, the main character, she's an artist. She's trying to find her. She's trying to find kind of her voice as well. And
Mm,
everything. And despite kind of living up to expectations from, they're I feel both of the films are about like living up to expectations, I think, of the family. And
a
sometimes you
family.
just, yeah, stepping out of that, going against the grain, like it's I'm probably going to get get hit, or something, if I tell my parents I'm going to do this or that,
Right. Mm,
but I'm going to do it anyway, because I am passionate about this thing. And a lot of the artists who work on these films, I can, I feel like they come from the same place too.
mm,
The arts. isn't always the easiest thing to get into for a lot of folks. And I think those in working on those films, I can kind of see, like, for a lot of folks who are like, okay, and for me too, being at Pixar, it's like I'm here, I've gotten this far. It was tough. I never thought I would get here, but I've proved myself, not necessarily to other people, but most importantly to myself.
Oh,
You know,
that's most important. Yeah.
it's very important. And I think that's something like I didn't know I needed to prove to myself until later on in life. Like, and that's kind of the whole like moment. It's like, oh wow, um all right, proving to folks, ha, I did it is one thing, but you know what? I had to prove to myself that I can do it as well.
You can
I
survive.
can, yeah, I can survive, and I can, you know, do really, really excel in this thing that started off as what folks call, a hobby, or
Yeah.
like, right? A hobby, or just like something you're doing with your friends for fun, but
Right.
not put food on the table, but just kind of I think those two projects were the ones that gave me a little like epiphany moments, like, huh,
Mm.
like that's me.
Yeah.
I I did it, and my parents aren't disappointed.
Right. Right.
Like my family's not disappointed. Um, maybe okay, there were some trepidations before, but I had to kind of just go through the process, over the years, just go get through it. And I think, what I think what proved to what the key to proving to them that I was capable of doing it for it was proving to myself that I can do it, you
Right.
know. And so um I don't know if that answers your questions.
Yeah, no. No, yeah, no, it does. Yeah. So
Yeah.
for like, man, fucking Coco, it's like one of the few films that made me like
Oh,
bawling.
dude.
Like, yeah, Jesus. Dan, have you seen Coco or Turning
Yes,
Red?
I
Okay.
have two kids. Yeah,
Yeah.
so we watched them a lot.
I haven't seen Turning Red yet, but I do want to see
What?
that. Yeah,
Oh,
I haven't
dude,
seen it.
dude. You got to
It's
see it.
good.
It's great. Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay, I'll watch it. But yeah,
Yeah.
man, freaking Coco. I was watching with one of my guy friends who I practice Brazilian jiu-jitsu with.
Ooh,
So
nice.
manly guy, Aaron, he was on our podcast before, Aaron Estrada, and I just remember like, don't see me cry, like, as he's like, he's my senpai. He's a higher belt,
Yeah.
and I'm just like bawling like over here. Like when he starts, yeah, singing the song. Yeah, so we got 10 more minutes or so. We
Oh,
could
okay.
probably wrap this up. Yeah, I think for me, one other thing and you touched about this is like, yeah, your background, how it seems like maybe there are certain expectations from your family. I
Hmm.
think there are for like immigrant parents, right? Of like
Yep.
they come from an unstable or not as stable environment. They hope that their kids can thrive in a more stable environment. But then maybe there's a certain level of like, oh, but why are they choosing this path? This less, we came for here for stability, right? And why is he choosing a less stable path? So, like hearing about that, I think I do find much common ground with that as well. So, thanks for sharing that story.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know for like you mentioned you had like this kind of a deal with your parents about college. Like Dan, are you gonna you're gonna do something similar with your kids, or would you have a plan yet, or you'll cross that bridge when you get there?
I'll cross that bridge when I get there. I mean, I'll let my kids figure it out. Um, yeah, we're at least in a position where we can afford them to like look at and explore things. But who knows in the future? Things will change.
Right.
And on top of that, my wife is in the arts, so we can't say you can't go into the arts when my wife is already in the arts.
Right. Yeah. So
It's kind of tough to like to to say
But
anything.
yeah, it's like, but mom is blah blah blah.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah. I
Yeah.
was
right,
gonna say
right.
that's just asking for like the kids who like mama's doing it, so why can't I do it? So,
Yeah, the hypocrisy would be really big. So
Yeah.
yeah.
One thing I do remember connecting with Daniel about Daniel Tong was like we both fans of A Blink of an Eye, a book by Walter Murch.
Oh
I think
yeah.
I don't know if we ran into each other because Walter Murch was doing a speaking gig in, I believe, like in the peninsula somewhere. Maybe I ran into Daniel there, or I forget. But anyways, I met Walter and I was just like super nice guy. He signed my book. Yeah. So I'm kind of curious, Daniel, about your. He talks about his philosophy about editing. So I'd be
Right.
curious to hear about your own personal philosophy about editing. And like, do you also kind of believe in that? Oh, getting that cut right before before or after the blink of the person speaking. So Walter Murch, just for a brief summary, Walter Murch talks about how for him editing, he'll sometimes edit the clip right before or after the blink of some of the actor speaking because he feels like that's the change of that's the beat of the scene, right? I believe
Mhm.
correct me if I'm wrong, Dan, if it's before the blink or right after blink, or it could be either one, but he uses it as a tool, as kind of like a tool of when to cut. But yeah.
Right, right. Yeah. I think it's before because my own philosophy is kind of the same, kind of that runs around the same line too. Like
Yeah.
if it's a character between if it's a scene between two characters, I always imagine like if I'm cutting between the two characters, I would imagine it as if I was the third wheel
Mm,
and turning from one person to the other. When would I uh hear something from this other person and turn to this other person to see their reaction? That's kind of how I would imagine myself in
mm,
that scene. Um, and I think the other thing that I really liked that changed my thinking about editing too from Walter Murch was emotion first, continuity down the list.
mm.
Like I think because it's easy to get like when you get started in editing, it's easy to be like, I need to match these shots together. I need to match them exactly. And
Oh yeah,
Walter
like
Murch,
that hand was not in that position, or
right?
that painting was a little tilted. Okay, so continuity for those listening who don't know, continuity is just keeping things like continuous, like the scene looks the same as it's supposed to happen the same time, the same place. Yeah, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And Walter Murch's thing is emotion first. You don't have to match, like you don't have to match stuff. Like the emotion will guide you through the shots, even if they're not matched to a certain extent.
To extent, yeah.
To a certain extent. And he couldn't be more true. Like I've seen movies where like would get me balling, you know, like there's one movie I don't want to spoil it because I feel like it's going to spoil but I remember there's one movie I love that there's an emotional goodbye between the two characters and little hint, one character is going back to space and the other character is staying on Earth, and it's like their goodbye, and it's just like one of the most emotional moments in the movie. And there's one shot where you cut to one character and you see one of the characters' hands on their shoulders, like holding them like this, but then you cut to the other shot, no hands at all.
Mm.
And I've never noticed that until like I think way later in life. I was like, huh, the scene's not matching, but the emotion still works. It's
Mm.
it's still there. Still an emotional goodbye between these two characters.
Right.
And I think that was the click moment. It's like emotion will drive the emotion will drive the focus of the film. The emotion will drive the scene if you have it, if you have it consistent through the scene and you know what the direction you want to go with it is, then the emotion can drive the scene in your film.
Mm.
So, um, yeah, I've run into Walter Murch twice, I think.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, yeah, I did go to an event. I think it was with San Francisco Film Festival,
Mm.
and I ran into him at Pixar
Oh
one time
wow.
too. Yeah, it's so he's yeah, he's a really nice guy.
Yeah.
Um, he talks about stuff outside of editing.
Hmm.
Right. It's
Yeah,
interesting.
which
Yeah.
which which is what you should do. I think. With life is more than just editing. So,
Right.
but we're
He's a
talking about
big
editing now.
science. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's a science geek. I know. Like I asked him, like, yeah, because he talks about science in that in his book Blink of an Eye and
Yeah.
the use of like but yes, like kind of but his idea of like what I mean by science is kind of like the psychology, I guess, behind editing and like kind of like how humans have evolved and how we view the world and how editing is a way of kind of like using film, which is one of the closest things to thought he mentions, right? And I found that so interesting, that kind of insight. So I'm just very curious to hear about your own personal like philosophy about editing. So like for you, emotion is number one.
Hmm.
And then for you, when you are editing, then what's like your creative process with the director? Are you how I guess what's your creative? It depends on the project, I'm assuming, right? Because
Right.
right. So like how is your I guess your creative collaborative process? What do you like to do as an if you are the lead editor of a film or a short film? Yeah.
Right. I mean, I could talk forever about the process, but I'll skip.
I guess
I
this
could
will be
talk.
our last one before we go to the language corner. But yeah, sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Right, right. I mean, I can talk all day about the assistant editing process, which is key to my
Yeah, sure, sure.
to my process. But I can focus more on the lead editing part as well. But just long story short, the assistant editing part is a huge part of me um knowing how to cut the movie, just the whole movie in general, because I'm organizing, I'm seeing all the footage, right, and I'm marking it and keying it the way I want. And I'm already kind of making notes to myself, like I'm going to use this take. I like this take, maybe this one, and just keep note of that. I always approach assistant editing, whether it's for me, like no matter if it's for me or for someone else, always approach it in a way that how would I want my assistant editor to organize a project for me,
Yeah.
you know? And so that's how I would always start a project from the technical side, organization side. But if I as lead editor, I always have try to have a conversation with the director before, and get the scripts. Obviously, get the scripts, and I always ask the last question I would always ask the director at the end of our meeting is, okay, um, when you wrote this, when you direct this, do you have a song? Do you have a movie? Do you have a game? Do you have something in mind that was in your head when you wrote this? And sometimes they'll be like, oh, I was watching Francis Ha, or I was watching Shawshank, and I was thinking of this one horror movie from Japan, or from Thailand, or oh no, I was thinking about this song by the Rolling Stones. I was listening to the Rolling Stones while I was writing this movie, and I would take that, like, okay, and I would watch that film. I would listen to that piece of music. I would like immerse myself in that. Like, okay, let me get into the director's head, just so I know what the original vision is like. And then I would go off my own and I would read the script. Just sit down, like read the script. Just sit down and read it. Don't be in front of your computer screen. Just sit down on the couch, read it, and get my take of it, like my sense of what the story is. Okay, all right. And then when it's ready to edit the film, um, usually the director would just let me go off on my own. Like, okay, just do the assembly and just let's get a first cut out. And
Mm.
usually with the first assembly, I would try to adhere as close to the script as possible. Uh, if something really doesn't work, then I'll be like, okay, this is really not working. But usually I would try to adhere to the script as close as possible,
Mm.
just so we can see what works or what doesn't work, and we can like talk about it. So, after that first assembly, it's just kind of a back and forth process. I call it a diplomatic process. Uh, I really feel like editing a movie is like negotiating peace between two countries. Yeah, that's what it feels like sometimes. Because there are, we're coming to the table. I'm like, all right, here's what I want, and then the person's like, well, okay, but this is what I want,
Mm.
And then so it's a lot of negotiating between, all right, we can't have this, but we can have this if you take this and do this instead. Like, okay, let's do that.
Right.
And so there's a lot of back and forth and just kind of like trying, going off my own, just being creative, just get into the zone, just edit, put it together. I call it like playing with Legos. It's like playing with Legos. You have your
Mm.
pieces, and that's why I spend a lot of time in the assistant editing stage. Like, okay, once I got all my footage laid out, I'm gonna go in and select. I'll go through each scene. Um, I don't know if you how you guys out there, organize your files. I like laying out all my footage by sequences, and each of those sequences is by scene. And so I can like scroll through the sequence and look at all the footage in that scene, all the shots, and I would
For
mark
that
each,
specific scene. Okay. Oh.
yeah, for that specific scene. So all the scene one clips will be on this one sequence marked scene one, and all the scene
Mm.
three will be on this sequence marked scene three and whatever. And then I would use markers quite a lot. Just like, okay, this is shot one C. This is the close up on Mike, you know, and this is shot one E. This is the medium shot on Julia. And oh, by the way, she does a movement with her eyes that I think would be great for this moment when Mike says
Mm.
this. And so it's a note to myself. So I would do one round of just laying everything out, putting all the notes, and then I would go back to scene one and go through each sequence and pick out the pieces that I like.
Yeah.
That I know what I'm going to build my Lego house or
Right. Right.
whatever out of. And so that would be the starting place for me. And so when it's really time to cut, I would go through each of those sequences and be like, all right, here's the sequence I'm going to do for scene one. Oh, I have all my pieces laid out. Let me put this together. And that's just to get me started. I can
Yeah.
always go back. I can always go back to this string out sequences for scene one. Like, all right, what I ended up choosing doesn't work, so let me go back and
Right.
choose things. Or the director's like, hey, I like that's a good choice, but I would prefer this other take because
Mm.
we see Julia crying or something,
Right. Right.
whatever. So that's kind of my process, just with the directors, kind of going back and forth,
Negotiating peace.
negotiating
Yeah.
peace, and then again, I also try to put myself in that perspective as of that third wheel. As like if I'm observing the scene, when would I turn and blink and see what's going on?
Right.
Um, like try to get into the sensibility of the scene and the characters and just like where are they feeling and try to get some rhythm in there as well. If this person's going high, let this other person go low. This person going high, low. Just try to find the dynamics in that.
Awesome.
So yeah, a lot of
Cool.
stuff.
Awesome. Yeah, I know that could be like a whole nother podcast is the aesthetic considerations of editing. I mean, we can bring you on for a more technical or artistic talk like that. But yes,
Sure.
thank you so much for joining us today. And for just after right now we're recording is the holiday season. So thank you for joining us during this holiday season, Daniel.
Woohoo, yeah. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure, and again, it's an honor, and
Oh, it's our honor.
yeah, great catching up with you as
Yeah. Yeah,
well
man.
as always. Almost forgot about that high school French video. French video until now. So
I forgot about that
uh
Godzilla. So yeah,
yeah,
there's might be a file somewhere. I gotta dig it out somewhere. But yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I wonder if
So
I could, yeah.
yeah, just quickly, we have a language corner thing at the end. So one word. So basically, we learn about we at the language corner we just share like a phrase we've learned in like language that we're learning or a language that we've learned. So one is like so in Japan, like Kentucky Fried Chicken is a big thing for for dinner. Like that's Christmas dinners, Kentucky Fried Chicken. There's a whole you can Google it, look it up, the history behind it, why that is. I guess it was like some sort of marketing kind of thought, or they mistakenly thought it was a thing in America. But anyways, KFC in America in Japan is so KFC Kentucky Fried Chicken is like they just use katakana. It's like Kentucky is Kentucky.
Kentucky, yeah.
Kentucky is Kentucky, and then chicken, and or
Furaido.
fried chicken, and then but they just say Kenta for short, like Kentucky. Yeah, just
Oh,
Kenta. Oh,
Yeah.
Kenta. Kenta 欲しいですか? Do you want
とても美味しいです。
とても欲しい。美味しいですね. Oh, so you speak some
Yeah.
Japanese, Daniel?
少し話せます。
すごいです。はい。Any languages you guys are learning or any phrases you want to share this time around? Yeah. No.
I I don't know if I covered this. Jutai. Jutai means traffic.
Jutai. Maybe like a long time. I might have,
Maybe, huh?
but Jutai,
Hmm.
yeah, that's traffic. Traffic can be bad during the holiday season here in Japan.
Zangyo. Zangyo.
Is that
Overtime.
overtime?
Yeah.
Zangyo. Zangyo. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big thing in Japan, Zangyo.
Very big.
Yeah. I think I heard that the KFC story recently. I think it was like it was as an American in Japan that I think because there was no turkey, turkey was hard to come by in Japan. The next best thing was KFC.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I think the manager, either the manager of KFC or the head of KFC found out about that, like, and was like, "Oh, we can make a whole thing out of this."
Uh
Um, yeah.
So yeah, I've heard that story, and I there's another version where like there was a kindergarten nearby of this KFC that wasn't doing their business wasn't doing so great, and he was thinking, well, maybe I can just like give KFC to like the nearby kindergarten, right? And he
Oh.
talked to the kindergarten teacher, and the kindergarten teacher, oh yeah, well, can you dress up as Santa and bring KFC then? And he's like, okay, yeah. And he did that, and it became like a hit, and the kids loved it. And he's like, wait, maybe I can do this. Yeah, maybe I can make this a thing. So I've heard various.
Oh.
There's like those are like the two main stories, the American one, and then like the kindergarten story. I think there might be another one, but though it's like it's a legend. Yeah,
Yeah,
we're not. I'm not sure exactly which one is the correct
the
story,
correct one.
but KFC, yes. I went there. Luckily, I reserved Yoyaku reserved the my KFC in advance. So when I got there, there was a line, but luckily I could skip the line. But yeah,
You know, that sounds like a premise for a story that you guys can
KFC.
film, right? Like the three different legends of KFC
the
in
three
Japan.
we'll make up the third one. It's like a
You can
Godzilla
make it
comes
up.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like two semi-real ones, and then the last one is like one that's like really,
Complete
really
fantasy. Yeah.
But
extreme.
that sounds like the premise for something, right? A
That's
short story is like,
yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah. I think like pizza and cake are also a big thing during Christmas too, right? Is that
Pizza and well, cake for sure. Yeah,
yeah,
Christmas cake,
strawberries.
Christmas cake.
strawberry cake.
Strawberry.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen that in anime and video games. So I was like, oh yeah.
But you want to know something really odd? I mean, we're talking about odd foods invading Japan, the traditions and stuff like that. My friend recently showed me a picture of Jack in the Box where there's a poster where they're selling boba at Jack in the Box
In
What?
Japan or in
in
China?
America.
In
In
America.
America. But
Oh,
you want to hear
What?
something even crazier? I was walking by the nearest Del Taco today, and they have a poster. They're selling ramen.
what?
There's a Del
What?
Taco ramen, birria, the beef. Yeah, there's a birria ramen.
Like an actual like bowl with ramen.
Yes, yes, at Del Taco.
Wow. Yes.
Wow.
The Asian foods are coming in. We're creeping in. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
I think I heard Donald Glover just opened a boba shop
yeah, in
too, or
Silver
something,
Lake.
right?
In
Oh,
Silver
Yeah.
really?
Lake. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go try it out.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
His
I want
wife
to
is
see what.
half, yeah, his wife is like half Asian or something. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm
really?
gonna go try
Yeah.
that out.
Oh,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
gotta go
So,
try that
oh
out.
yeah,
Sounds
so it's
good.
near you, Dan. You can
Yeah.
go. Okay.
It's like 10 minutes away, I think.
Oh, I gotta go when I go back to LA. For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you based in the Bay? You're still in the Bay Area, Daniel?
No, I'm based in LA.
You're based in LA. Okay.
Yeah, I just
Uh,
came up north for the holidays.
oh, you're here for, oh yeah, duh, yeah. So you're based in LA. Okay. So
Yeah.
if anyone needs an editor, and I guess now you can edit from anywhere in the world, with technology. But if you want to meet Daniel in person, he's based in LA. Be sure to check out some of the projects he'll be having coming out soon. There's No Room for Love. There's a Filipino American web series about a bunch of folks living in LA, the same apartment. There's also Creature Comforter, a short horror comedy mockumentary that Daniel's editing for Brave Maker Studios. And then also he's working with Erica Milsom on Release the Beast from Rhizo Studios. He's an assistant editor for that. It's a short animated film about a timid boy who learns to defend himself against bullies using his art that he created for his video games. He's also edited, check out Jinho, a Korean American feature directed by David Boo. He and Daniel has attended some film festivals for that this past year, as well as he edited Always in My Head, a music video by Filipino American music artist Garth Garcia. So that's just a list of some of his work. For a more complete list, be sure to check out his LinkedIn. Also check out his website, which is Daniel Tong Editor. .weebly.com. Anything else you want to add? Any other shout outs you want to give before we sign off, Daniel?
Just a shout out to you guys. Thank you for thank you for having me on board. It was really fun getting to meet the other Dan as well. So yeah, no, it's just a shout out to you guys, and just a shout out to all those folks out there who are listening who also want to be filmmakers. Pursue your passion and just stay hungry. Not too hungry, but no, stay hungry and just like if you love it, do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just keep going at it. And
追求你的梦 chase your dreams. Yeah.
追求你的梦，未来を夢を something.
追 something. Yeah.
頑張って。
頑張って加油. Yeah.
加油.
Everyone, 加油, 加油. Okay.
加油.
All right. Thanks so much, everyone. So
Thank
this
you.
this is James signing off. James, aka Young, signing off. You guys
This
want to
is
sign
Yin.
off?
Yeah, this is Yin signing off.
This is Daniel Tong signing off.
Awesome. See you guys on the next one. Take care. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.